So I just finished watching Beast Wars Part 2, and I have some thoughts. This is part 2 of our introductory episode of Beast Wars, so of course there's still a lot of establishing going on, and there is some characterization that needs to be fleshed out, so we're not quite into the meat of the series yet, but we are getting there, and we are going to have some interesting things in this episode. It's primarily a Dinobot episode. We have to establish a lot about him, his code of honor, his manner of behavior, and a lot of it comes down to how much the Maximals can now trust this defected Predacon. And of course, a lot of that comes down to the fact that Rat Trap is completely unwilling to trust him. It's an interesting dynamic to unfold because we get to see a little bit of how all of the Maximals behave, in this situation. Cheetor, still very impetuous. He's still showing how hot-headed he is, and he's eager to jump in during the one-on-one battle between Primal and Dinobot. Rhinox and Rat Trap oddly stop him. They're okay making this a one-on-one fight. I'm not entirely sure why. I guess there's a Maximal code of honor going on here too, but they were willing to let them settle it amongst themselves. Rat Trap here is, again, one of the more interesting characters to follow because aside from still trying to fall in with the rest of the Maximals and still being reluctant to follow what Primal orders and what he says, he is also dealing with having to work with a Predacon. What's fun to me about this is that aside from just how little trust he has for him, of course he has no trust in Dinobot, compared to his relative cowardice in the first episode, as well as here, where he was the one who was not willing to join in when the Predacon started attacking, he was oddly confrontational with Dinobot, who is twice his size. It's interesting to me because it strangely goes against, like, they knew what they were doing with those two, that they were going to be this love-hate relationship throughout the course of a season and a half of this show, but they knew, like, they I don't know, they're establishing that relationship, but at the same time they're trying to keep Rat Trap as like, I'm not getting my hands dirty, I'm not getting into this battle. So, it's a little bit of a weird mix here. It's a little bit weird mix. Now he starts kind of falling in line toward the end. He's of course he's in the final battle, so he smooths out, and we're getting past the introductory parts of the series, so he starts getting more of a team player just as the show becomes more episodic. But it's an interesting dichotomy to follow in this episode. Also interesting when we're talking Dinobot, vocal tone's a little weird in this one. Like, he keeps going back and forth from a deeper and less gravelly voice to like the more familiar tones. You can tell it's still not quite. They're still trying to figure out exactly how the characters are going to sound. Let's see. What else can we pick out? Primal in the first battle interests me because it feels like, of course, he's not going to hand over leadership of the Maximals if Dinobot had won the fight. It's strange to me that at any point he could have fallen off and flown. Like, they were trying to bring up this thing. It's like, well, if you fall, it's a long way down. I'm sorry. Primal can fly. Maybe at this point in the series they hadn't established that he had the ability to fly, because I can't remember. He didn't fly at any point. Wait, did he? Oh, I can't even. Nah, geez. I just saw episode 1, and I can't remember if he flew in episode 1. All right. For the sake of argument, we knew he could fly. So why didn't he? Why was him falling such a big threat here? Also, as long as we're touching on that fight, because I do want to point out a few other things here. I find it interesting that Dinobot has enough honor to not take a victory because Primal slipped. But it does not stop him from taking a cheap shot at Primal's face with his eye lasers when he wasn't expecting it. It's Predacon honor. It's a little bit skewed. But again, the episode is pretty much about establishing him and giving Optimus a chance to really show the kind of leader he's going to be. Absent in characterization here was, well, most of the Predacons. Scorponok gets one line, and it's a line that doesn't make sense because during the fight, missiles start flying at the mountain in the background, and that's where the Energon Mountain is going to be revealed. He points it out, even though there's literally no reason for him to point out some missiles that are flying off into the distance, but we have to get everyone to pay attention to that spot, so I guess that's what we're going with. Terrorsaur in particular is, like, in 2 episodes now, Terrorsaur has not gotten a line outside of Terrorsaur Terrorize. And granted, it's a great line coming from him because there's a really good inflection going on that makes it stand out, but still, looking for a little bit more meat on the pterodactyl still. It takes him a little bit before he really finds his footing. What I really loved here was the final battle here, because one, it's establishing what Energon is in this series. It's a natural crystalline element, not the traditional cubes, not like flowing energy that we've seen before, but raw crystal, which is very different from what we were used to and definitely changes how things are handled. You know, it's something that can be found amongst nature. It is something that has to be mined and harvested correctly. It was pointed out that, you know, the flyers can't bring the crystal back. It's too big and they don't have the skill to segment it. It's a very short way of establishing this stuff is extremely powerful. They really push it. They really push it that this much Energon is enough for 5 Predacons to conquer the universe. This stuff has to be super powerful. Like that's a really incredible amount of power there. So they're trying really hard to push just how important the Energon was and how powerful it was. And it is a very different beast, and how dangerous it is, because in its raw form, it's unstable. Which is what brings us to a final battle where everyone has to stay in beast mode, not only because the Energon would short them out and fry them in a minute, but also because they can't fire. They can't shoot any weapons in this environment. It makes for a really cool battle. Beast battles become pretty rare later on in the series. You know, it's mostly sticking to robot mode and shooting it out. You don't see them, you know, and as the series goes on, you actually see the beast modes have less and less impact. So now, when the beast modes are kind of vital, it's really cool to see them literally sticking to beast mode for the fight. In general, yeah, it's a cool fight. And I understand why. I understand why they do that, because if, you know, there's a lot of moving parts to a bunch of animals fighting. I understand why the animators wouldn't be willing to go through that. It's a cool fight scene, though. Shows, you know, Dinobot shows his first bit of loyalty to the Maximals. And we get the name drop at the end of the episode with Primal screaming, "Let them be known as Beast Wars." And apparently Megatron heard that, because with no communicating with the Predacons, he picked up on the name apparently too. Not the first time something weird like that's going to happen through the series. Grading wise, it does get enjoyable. It is vital watching because it is still part of the first, you know, the first introductory bit of the series. But also, it's, you know, the voice acting here is still good. There's some plot contrivances to be certain, but it does have some really cool moments and some really good fight scenes, both a 1-on-1 and a big 5-on-5 melee. Really cool, really fun episode. So that's it for me today, and hopefully this is bite-sized enough that you don't get bogged down by too many uploads, because tomorrow we get to talk a proper Season 1 episode, now that all the introductions are out of the way. Join me for it, won't you? Guys, I am facing the most powerful enemy any YouTuber can face, the algorithm, and I need your help to defeat him. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and leave a comment. Every time you do, we attack that algorithm and we drive it back until it can no longer defeat this channel. Thank you very much.